Okay, so apparently my audio wasn't recording in the past couple days. So, well, there's that. Anyways, let's look at the notes I have. If you can be triggered by something that someone random says, then it's probably mostly true. I mean, anyways, you can't be triggered by something that you don't believe can is at all true. Just a fact. Okay, let me see. What? Okay, so chess. In chess, you have an end goal of winning the game by, say, checkmate. And if we compare that to real life, if we use chess as an analogy for real life, the thing is, in chess, you plan a few moves ahead, and you can't go that deep because you have limited time and you're not a computer, and you have to just go play the best few moves you can see and then react accordingly. The position is going to change. Your opponent is not going to necessarily play the moves you calculated, so then you wait a few moves. Like, as you move forward, you update your calculations and then make new plans. So the point is this: don't plan out like 10, 15 moves ahead, because it's not going to go the way you want. You can have a general idea of what it may look like in 15 moves, but you should focus your calculations on the next few moves. And so it's like you see a lot of people with like these very long-term plans, and you know that like after like 6 months it's going to change. So the situation is going to change, and also you're going to change. So the person who's making the decisions will change because you've iterated. Speaking of iteration, I had another thought, which is the point of what was it? The main determiner of how fast something improves or makes progress is the rate of iteration. So, how frequently it compounds. And I'll give you an example. If you were to play, let's just say, an idle game, right? And you just a generic idle game. This doesn't have to be a specific one. This is so you leave the game for, say, 8 hours, and then you spend your whatever you gain in that 8 hours, and then you now get upgrades, and then you wait 8 hours, and then you get upgrades, and then so your income made during the 8 hours you're offline is much larger every time you log on, every 8 hours that you log on. So you iterate every 8 hours. If it was 24 hours, you would be making the 16 hours that you didn't log on for, you're making at the same rate as the original 8 hours. Whereas if you logged on after 8 hours, you would be making your rate at an updated rate. So it's the rate of iteration, and it works this way in real life too. So it's like how long it takes for you to test a theory is going to determine how quickly you improve at a skill. I say this, and I don't actually put it to practice really, because but the main reason I thought about this is because that was the reason I could improve at TESOL quickly, is because I could think of ideas, test them like within the hour, and then make changes every single day. And so like it made it very easy to improve at a game like TESOL, but it's not as easy to improve at life, unfortunately. Anyways, I mean, there are other people who just iterate crazy fast in real life, but those are the people who can be big boys. Okay, what else? Yes. Money does not equal happiness, but it is the lack of money can cause unhappiness. So it's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you satisfy the first two, if you have lots of food, you can satisfy the first condition. More food won't further satisfy the first condition. As long as your need is met, then further amounts won't bring you more happiness. It's the next level. What you need. So you can use money to help you fulfill your higher levels of needs. For example, if you were to use it to perform some, if you use money as a vehicle to carry your passion, that could help you with fulfillment. But money itself does not give that for you. And the same works with hard work. Hard work does not need success, but you can't succeed without it. So it's a prerequisite, but it's not equivalent. Don't know what to make of that because I don't think I work hard enough. But it's so hard for me to focus. Like, I think I would be able to work much harder if I were to find something that I could focus on without getting distracted. But I don't actually know what that would be. Okay. In order to find the way, you have to admit you're lost. Which is interesting. I mean, okay, so here's another thought I had. So if you had, say, a globe, right? Imagine a game world where you start at a point. So we'll just say the North Pole, right? It's easy to understand. And then the South Pole is the max level area. And as you go down in latitude, the level of the areas increase, and there are barriers vertically across the longitude. And let's say there are towns throughout the area, and then there are teleport points where you can teleport to towns that you visited before. So in this scenario, most people just visit a town, a low-level town, and then they'll visit another low-level town, and then they'll just go around the areas, and they'll expand this way. But the way to get to the South Pole is to take one path, and then you fight with the monsters at the level that you can barely fight to get the most efficient XP. You work at the edge of your ability, and you rapidly reach the end point. And and also you have to know the end point and decide that that's where you're going. But I didn't really have an end point. I don't know. It's just an analogy I had in mind, but I can't actually make anything of it. It's not actually useful. Yes. So I think my biggest mistake when I talk to people is that I talk too much. But it's like I feel like I have to get the conversation to stay going because I feel like they'll just stop talking if I don't say anything. But at the end of the day, I just always end up talking too much, which is not very useful because I don't benefit. So I heard a story where I can't remember who it was, but he was some guy who did social media, and he was telling a story about him meeting Elon Musk in the bathroom. Elon was like, "Oh hey," he said, "Hey Elon," and the guy was like, "Oh hey, I'd like to ask you what you think about me using Snapchat since you're the social media guy." And the guy, gave him Elon a 20-minute answer about what he knows and what his opinion is, and then Elon was like, "Thank you. I disagree, but thank you for your opinion," and then left. So he had 20 minutes with Elon, and he was doing all of the talking and gained no new information, whereas Elon did all of the listening and walked away with his insights. So I thought that was a nice story. I personally do find myself talking too much as well, which is pretty ineffective for learning. Another fascinating story. This was in the book I was reading for Habits, The Power of Habit. It was a study or an experiment where they took a bunch of chronic gamblers and non-gamblers, and they showed them videos of slot machines, and they weren't playing. It was just a video, and they analyzed the brain activity associated with habits. And what they found, so there are three outcomes. There's the miss, so there's the win, so like when there's three in a row or whatever, and then there's the near miss, so it's almost a win. And what they found, okay, so obviously the habits are consist of the cue, the action, and the reward, right? So it's like, and the main way to change your habits is to replace the action while maintaining the cue. So you recognize the cue that triggers the habit you want to change, then you change the action that generates the same reward, and then by doing this consciously, you'll eventually change the habit. Anyways, so they found that for the gamblers, the near miss triggered the reward in their habit. So for them, it felt like they won. And then for the non-gamblers, it triggered warning bells for them. They did not feel like they won. They felt like, I need to go before it gets worse. So they knew they could recognize it and go, yeah, they had warning bells rather than reward circuits when it came to near misses, which I thought was very interesting. Okay. When you do things with intention, so if you say, let's say you exercise by, going on a walk every day. Let's say you walk to school or whatever, or you go and walk with your friends around campus, whatever. And then you go home. Okay, that's nice. But if you exercise on purpose, like you say, I'm gonna get my exercise at least 30 minutes, whether or not I do it with friends. And then, so maybe you go on your friends and you check off your exercise. Or if you don't, you do your exercise on your own anyway. The point is that now, even if you do the same amount of exercise, by putting intention behind it, you reward yourself with the feeling of having done something you intended to do, which is why you can set up rewards for yourself. So when you do things on purpose, even if it was things you already did, but you recognize that it's something you want to do, so that if you didn't do it naturally, you would do it anyway, then you set up reward circuits. Okay, one more thing. 1-star reviews. Okay, so they say in order to learn, you have to be susceptible to criticism. In order to know more, you have to admit that you are wrong or didn't know enough before. If you think about a wise person, they're not wise because they believe themselves to be wise. They're wise because they believe they have much to learn. That's how they became wise. So it just doesn't that's the prerequisite to become wise, right? The process of continuous learning over a long period of time. It's where wisdom comes from, I guess. I mean, you can have nuggets of wisdom from people without that, but in general, when you consider someone wise, it was because they went through a process of learning. And the process of learning doesn't come from the belief that they're right. It comes from someone who is constantly learning. And so when you think about it, you think about this accepting of criticism, but there was a caveat that came in that was mentioned by someone, which I found very interesting. They said, when you hear somebody who is successful, or you've never heard of a book, whatever, something that publishes a lot of stuff, they never got there by listening to a bunch of 1-star reviews. And the reason for that is because 1-star reviews means that they're not your target audience. So that's why you focus on the 4-star reviews, the 3-star reviews, and also I guess sometimes the 2-star reviews, because they had they're actually pointing out ways you could do it better. But a 1-star review just means it wasn't for them. So that's why you can ignore the 1-star reviews. Now, if you have way too many 1-star reviews and no positive reviews, you're clearly doing something wrong. But if you have 200 5-star reviews, 100 4-star reviews, 100 3-star reviews, 100 2-star reviews, and 100 1-star reviews, you just focus on the 4 to 2-star reviews to improve them. So if you were to upgrade the two all of the 4 to 2 star reviews by one rank, it would be 300 5-star reviews, 100 4-star reviews, 100 3-star reviews, 0 2-star reviews, and the 100 1-star reviews. That's fine, because the one in this case you just focus on the fact that you've on the things you can actually improve in. You don't cater to the people that are on the opposite side. It's not useful. So that's why it's better to have something that really appeals to a group of people and really appeals to another group of people than one that does neither. Anyways, I thought that was a very interesting tidbit. Okay. Card games. The one thing I learned from the one mistake I found other people make in TESOL when trying to get better, and I guess Runeterra, but like in card games, it was the main mistake people made that failed to be competitive players. It was that when they were thinking, their thought process was very results oriented. So when they analyze, and they wouldn't like actually watch the games really, maybe sometimes they did, but like when they self-critique, so as I play, I'm constantly evaluating the previous few turns I made and the previous moves I made, as well as what I'm gonna do and what's gonna happen in the future. But the key is that when they use hindsight to analyze their previous decisions, they base it off of what happens in the game. This means that if you're not going off of win rate, you're not making evaluations based on the how good your move is, because your decision should be based on what gives you the best probability of success, not what would have given you success in this game, because the exact game at the start could have played out the same way 100 times with 100 different people, and your decision what would have been a good decision remains the same, because the information you had at the time of making the decision stays the same. Your decisions, what determines how good a decision is whether or not it was good given the information you had. You can't use new information to evaluate an old decision. You can only use new insights to evaluate an old decision. Thoughts you could have had before but didn't. Not thoughts you have now because of new information. This is the most important thing, and the biggest mistake that prevented people from actually getting good at the card games. And I think this is applicable to real life too. You have to evaluate based on probability, not results. Not if I made this move, I would have won because my opponent's hand was this. It's if I made this move, I would have had the best chance of winning because these are the possible hands my opponent could have had. That kind of thing. Okay. One more thought I had that I actually mentioned in the video 2 days ago, but it didn't record. So I do want to mention it again because I do want to keep thinking about this. I think maybe, they always say like follow your passion or whatever, right? But that's so vague. It's hard to actually think about what that means. I think maybe this is just a possibility that what the actionable form of this is to follow what makes you curious. Like what makes you think about it when you aren't performing the action. And the more you do it, the more you become curious about different ways to do it or different things you could do in it. And this isn't all. Okay, so I had this with like video games, so that doesn't really count, right? It's like I think about optimizing video game, but like if you're thinking about like you're playing instrument, songs, whatever it is, all the time, then you can try to explore that direction, right? So it's like I think maybe passion is just curiosity, and it's when you can do something over and over again and find new ways to do it to keep yourself interested. There was a saying in a book I read. I can't remember which one it was, but they said, I think it might have been 101 essays. Anyways, they said, love is not doing many things. It's doing the same thing many ways. I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like that, but much better. It was much better articulated. But yeah, it's like as you do it, you find new ways you want to do it. And so, yeah, curiosity. I think that might be it. I don't know. So a curiosity that you want to satisfy. That never that you can keep that keeps coming out. Okay. Yeah, that'll be it for today. I there was actually other things I wanted to mention, but I forgot them and I didn't write them down because I was outside and about. But that's gonna be it.